Hello, everyone. Gonna work a little bit more on repairing this Cuckoo clock today. So first thing that I did, removed the movement from the last video. I've been inspecting the movement, and the things that I'm looking for are play within the gears, play within the rods, trying to see if anything is bent or loose or just doesn't work like it's supposed to. And from what I can tell, everything seems to be in pretty good working order. So as it's mounted into the Cuckoo clock, on the right side here, this wheel on the back is what pulls the weight. So on this clock, the weight is on the outside of the wheel and it would pull down. So whoever installed the chain on this, when I bought it, they had it backwards, which is why it was stuck and it wouldn't go down. It's a very, very slow movement. So if I just gently pull down on this wheel with my finger, you'll see the pendulum in the back will swing. If I pull down faster, it'll swing faster, but just nice and slow. So the pendulum swings, which means this side for the time appears like everything's working in order. I don't foresee any issues there. The gears are nice and tight. I'm looking inside of the gearbox itself, looking at all of the cogs and the trundles and everything like that. Nothing appears to be excessively worn or damaged. So I think that's pretty good shape. I may not have to disassemble this gearbox at all. On the other side, the other gear, this is the gong. It makes the hammer fall, or sorry, this is the hammer. It strikes the gong on the back faceplate of the clock so that when the timer chimes, you hear this gong sound, and then these two arms are to make the bellows go, to make the coo and the coo sound. So the pattern should be the gong strike, and then this first arm to make the coo sound, and the second arm to make the other coo sound. Cuckoo, cuckoo. So if I turn this wheel, actually, let me back up. On the front, there's a catch right here. And when that thing stops, it'll go around in circles until it's done chiming, and then that gear catches it. So if I release it back out of that catch and I turn it back around and we run that side again, back this side again, we'll see that it goes gong, coo, coo. So this part also seems to be working. Everything seems to be nice and tight. So I'm going to try to not mess with this and not take it apart. It's functioning. It does what it's supposed to. I did fix that issue with the perch not going back like it was supposed to. And that was just that wire on this side. So this just needs to be cleaned. I've got some Cuckoo clock oil on the way. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to oil it. And I think this should be good. Obviously, I won't know for certain until we put actual weights on it and we test it for real if the timekeeping is going to work or not. But the initial inspection seems pretty promising. All of the bushings are good. Nothing is extra loose. So I think the gearbox, the movement is fine. So while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to turn my attention back to the housing itself, back to the case. And there's a lot of different stuff on the case that needs to be done. for now, I'm going to focus mostly on the house structure in and of itself. There's some issues here. Looking at it from the back, the right side door opens and closes fine. The left side door, really tight. It sticks. It's not centered correctly. The hinge is bent. And then looking at the house structure itself, the roof is split on this side. It's torn open here. I suspect, based on the damage to the front faceplate and to the top, that it fell off the wall, maybe hit it on this corner, which is what caused this damage. So my thought process right now is I'm probably just going to disassemble the entire house all the way back down to flat pieces of wood, because there's stuff like this, damage to the finish. There's stuff like this where there's marker mess on it, and I have to sand that off to repair that. Since I have to sand it, I'm going to have to refinish this. Like, I know that's not supposed to be, for collector's value, but I want it nice looking on the wall. So I'm less concerned about the antique value of this clock. It doesn't seem like it's a particularly expensive clock. I paid $15 for this. So if I can't get it working again and it's just a static display, that's fine. I don't really care. At the very least, it's a good learning experience. But I want to take this all apart so that it's easier to work with in terms of sanding and refinishing it. It's just held together by finishing nails all the way around. So it should be fairly easy to dismantle. And the door is just a couple of pins and this rod. So if I remove those pins from the house, the door should just come right off. And then this clock faceplate is glued on, and it's already kind of separated in the back. So if I'm careful about how I get this guy out, I'm just gently pushing on it from the back side. I was actually nailed it. I just pushed it out from the back side, and this whole faceplate came right off. So that was easy to get. It should be easy to work, and it's all like wood numbers glued on there. This is in really great shape. I'm probably not going to do much with this. I might try to gently sand the middle and reseal that so that it matches the rest of the house if I can't match this color of wood. But I don't want to try to repaint and reseal all of the numbers and everything, I don't think. The door I was just able to remove with a slight back and forth rocking motion. It's got some big long U-shaped hooks for where the hinges are. So set those aside. So this will allow me to sand that door up a little better, get it nice and clean. So that came off pretty easily. Now, one thing I did before I started recording is I marked the doors, left side and right side in pencil as I'm looking at the back of the box. And I also marked inside, left and right, just so that I can make sure I put the right door in the right spot, because they are hand carved and there's a little bit of uniqueness to them. I want to make sure that there's not, if I have the doors flip-flop, that it's not going to cause a problem. So that was one of the first things I did there. And these doors should be also fairly easy to remove. A little back and forth pulling motion. Able to get the doors off. Yep, there goes the other one. So let me show you here. I don't know if you can see it pretty well, how bent these door hinges are. The left one, the one that was stuck, is even worse. It's pretty bent up. This camera doesn't want to show the closeness of it. And looking at it again, actually, there's 2 plates. The hinge is 2-ply, and it goes around and it's 2-ply again. And on the left one, the one that was sticking, those 2-plies are kind of separated out. I don't think the camera is going to show it very well. I can't get it to zoom in. Anyway, so I'm going to try taking the hinges off and flattening them back down with a hammer. I've got a ball peen hammer I can use to make those work again. So the doors are off. The faceplate of the clock is off. I did remove these from the top roof up here. What these are for, they're latches that would hook into a piece of hardware that's mounted to the back of the faceplate. This doesn't have a faceplate right now. I'm still trying to figure out what exact faceplate it needs. So for right now, when I sand it down, I'm going to patch these holes and fill them in with wood putty. And then when I resand and refinish it, they should blend in. And then if I still need those, I'll put them back. And if not, then the holes will just be covered. All right, so in looking at the rest of the house, I'm trying to figure out like what order everything was nailed down, glued down. So I can take it apart the same way it was put together in the first place, kind of like reverse order. And it looks like the bottom piece was nailed on last. And that's based on the fact that nails are visible here. So there's 2 nails on each side, and it just sat in this way. So I'm going to try to start there. All right, so I'm being cautious not to break the wood. And as I'm looking in here, I gave it a gentle tug. It's not really moving at all. It's pretty secure. What I'm noticing as I examine it closer is that it's not just nailed. The house was glued together also. There's little beads of glue up inside the top corner that are visible up along the seam of the roof. So getting this apart is going to be a little bit trickier than I thought, but I'm still pretty confident that I can get it off. Just want to do so without damaging the wood any more than it already is. All right, I'm gonna stop trying to get this apart for right now. I'm putting a fair amount of pressure on the backside with that, just ripping it apart. And I'm making some tiny progress, but not enough to be satisfied. Like whatever glue they use to hold this together, that glue is incredibly strong. Because the nails themselves, half of them are half fallen out already. There's a couple of them are slightly raised. This one I can pull it up a little bit and it's slightly raised. So it's not the nails holding this together, it's the glue. And I don't want to risk cracking one of the boards or damaging it more than it is. So for now, I'm going to leave this assembled and I'm going to try my best to sand it and reseal it in one piece. And if I'm having trouble getting into the recesses and sanding it down that way, then I'll come back and revisit taking it apart. But that's it for today. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go clean it, wipe it down with some soapy water, reset this, seal this crack in the roof, and then after it all dries, get to sanding it down and then refinishing it. There's some interesting paneling on the front. It's really hard to see even without the camera. It's like some crisscross patterns that go across the front of the house. So I'm hoping I can bring that detail back out during the restoration. Anyway, that's it for today.